Picture this, a gleaming mansion perched on a lush hillside. A wealthy family with a laundry list of secrets and a cunning outsider willing to do anything to stake her claim on the fortune. In the grand foyer echoes the footsteps of a new mistress, bold enough to try and replace the rightful lady of the house, who also happens to be pregnant. But fate weaves its own brand of poetic justice. The hidden bank statements and frozen accounts become the ultimate trump card. Betrayals spiral out of control as scandal, greed, and vengeance collide. Welcome to a story so dramatic it feels torn from real life, a saga of power and payback you won't be able to forget. The Gilmore name had been synonymous with prestige and fortune for decades. Their vast wealth originated from a series of wise investments and real estate endeavors started by the charismatic patriarch Alexander Gilmore first in the 1960s. Fast forward to the present, and his grandson Alexander, Alex Gilmore III, lived in a sprawling estate on Ridgewood Drive with his wife Cassandra Cassie Gilmore. They were the kind of couple whose every movement was chronicled in society pages. Their annual fundraisers for children's hospitals, their lavish parties for well-heeled guests, and their romantic travels across Europe elevated them to near-mythic status in their circle. Yet behind the glossy facade of success and matrimony, cracks began to show. Cassie Gilmore was expecting the couple's first child, a child so fervently anticipated by Alex's family, because it would be the next Gilmore heir. Cassie, ever the poised hostess, had meticulously arranged the baby's nursery, selected plush pastel wallpapers, and even chosen a name that would be as timeless as the Gilmore legacy. The entire staff bustled with excitement for the child. The butler, Mr. Jameson, confided in the mansion's housekeeper, Meredith, that he had never seen such unbridled joy in that household, not in his entire 25 years of service. Cassie carried the baby through her second trimester, glowing with the promise of motherhood. But beneath her serene smile loomed a troubling sense of distance from Alex. He had grown cold, absent, and suspiciously busy. He'd come home late, slipping into the bedroom at odd hours of the night, often accompanied by the faint smell of a different perfume. Cassie tried to confront him, but he diverted her concerns with sweet assurances or short, sharp arguments that left her feeling paranoid and guilty for suspecting him. She was pregnant after all. Maybe her hormones were making her see ghosts. However, months earlier, Cassie had found a single damning piece of evidence, a gold earring lodged in the passenger seat of Alex's brand-new sports car. It wasn't hers. She'd never worn anything like it. She placed it in a velvet pouch and tucked it away in her closet, hoping it would remain an isolated incident, some bizarre slip. If it happened again, she told herself she would take action. Sure enough, more signs surfaced. A suspicious text message glimpsed on his phone, a lipstick stain on a white collar. Slowly, heartbreak settled into Cassie's chest. But she needed proof, undeniable proof, before deciding how to proceed. Living in that opulent mansion with an unfaithful husband took a toll. Cassie could not shake the image of the secret mistress. Who was she? Where did they meet? Did Alex love this woman, or was she just a passing fling? Cassie confided in her most trusted friend and personal assistant, Linda Carter, who had known Cassie since high school. Linda was fiercely loyal, ready to do everything in her power to protect her friend and the unborn child. It was Linda who found the name Veronica Brooks. She discovered it in an email Alex accidentally left open on his laptop, a short cryptic note from V. Brooks referencing an upcoming dinner date. Linda's heart pounded as she read the lines. She quickly took screenshots, transferring them to her phone as quietly as possible. If Cassie needed a stronger case against Alex, this was it. Word around town eventually reached Cassandra's ears as well. A neighbor, Mark Henderson, who was tangentially part of the same country club, mentioned that he'd seen Alex dining with a young brunette with striking features and an insatiable laugh. They were at an expensive French restaurant, leaning in as though lovers oblivious to the rest of the world. The rumor spoken in hushed tones by Mark felt like a bullet to Cassie's heart. She tried to maintain her composure, but deep within she was roiling with anger, confusion, and an all-consuming sense of betrayal. Worried about the baby, Cassie found a way to push aside her emotional torment. She had regular prenatal checkups at the best private clinic, courtesy of the Gilmore wealth. Ultrasounds brought her fleeting moments of happiness. Each time she heard her baby's heartbeat, it reminded her of what truly mattered. She vowed to keep her child safe and not let an affair ruin her emotional or financial security. If Alex's mistress tried to usurp her place, she would be ready. She would protect her child, her inheritance, and everything she had built alongside Alex. Despite the emotional chaos, Cassie was determined not to lose her sense of agency. As the heir-bearer and legal spouse, she held a unique power in the Gilmore empire. She wasn't just a trophy wife. Over the years, Cassie had helped rebrand their family's philanthropic efforts, forging strong alliances with powerful families and forging deeper ties with the Gilmore investment partners. She was not the naive socialite some people assumed her to be. She knew more about the Gilmore financial holdings than many suspected. More importantly, she was privy to certain legal aspects regarding estate planning, trust funds, and freeze orders. Slowly, methodically, Cassie set the stage. What Cassie did not anticipate was how brazen Veronica Brooks would become. The first time Cassie laid eyes on Veronica was a jolt to the system. Veronica was a flame-haired beauty with a sharp wit and an unapologetic smirk. She wore designer dresses that Cassie recognized as runway exclusives, an indication that Alex had likely been spoiling her. It was at a charity fashion show. Veronica strolled in on Alex's arm, as if she had every right to be there. Cassie, stunned, quickly ducked behind a tall bouquet arrangement. Linda, who was beside her, stifled a gasp. Even more shocking was how Veronica would occasionally glance around, seemingly searching for Cassie with a triumphant glimmer in her eyes, as though daring the wife to make a scene. From that moment on, Cassie realized that this was not just a typical affair, hidden discreetly behind closed doors. Veronica intended to dethrone Cassie to become the new Mrs. Gilmore. It was a brazen attempt to supplant the pregnant wife and claim the Gilmore fortune for herself. In the gilded world of high society, appearances were everything. Cassie was used to wearing a mask of composure. That night, her resolve hardened. She would not be humiliated publicly, nor would she give Veronica the satisfaction of a confrontation that might result in further scandal. Cassie remained silent, but she was no longer merely suspicious. She was determined to unearth every detail and plan her next steps meticulously. With Linda's help, she delved into Alex's schedule, cross-referencing suspicious nights, checking financial statements for large, unexplained expenditures. The puzzle came together in vivid detail, each piece revealing Alex's betrayal. The next several weeks were tough. Cassie's blood pressure skyrocketed from stress, forcing her doctor to recommend bed rest. The staff was told to cater to her every need, while Alex surprisingly paid more attention to her, likely to maintain an illusion of a harmonious marriage, while the pregnancy was under scrutiny by the watchful eyes of the public. Cameras flashed whenever Cassie and Alex stepped out of a vehicle at some event, with tabloids gushing about the glowing mother-to-be and the devoted husband. Only Cassie knew the truth. The moment they returned home, Alex would often retreat into his study, texting on his phone with that infuriating grin that wasn't meant for her. Despite her heartbreak, Cassie recognized that if Veronica was truly as bold and calculating as she seemed, then the next steps were inevitable. To a mistress who craved power and a public claim simply having an affair was not enough. Eventually, Veronica would try to push Cassie out of the picture entirely. The rumors would swirl: a high-profile divorce, scandalous infidelity, financial gains for the cunning mistress. Cassie's baby could even be used as a pawn. Determined to preserve her dignity and safeguard her unborn child's future, Cassie started forging a plan. A plan that would revolve around freezing accounts, halting trust distributions, and taking swift legal action the moment the mistress overstepped her boundaries. As Cassie quietly gathered her resources, Veronica Brooks put her own scheme into motion. Perhaps she thought Cassie was weak, or perhaps she craved a more direct confrontation. Regardless, the next chapter of this entangled saga would be set when Veronica decided to force the confrontation on Cassie's own turf, the Gilmore mansion. On a warm Friday afternoon, Cassie was in the grand library, its shelves lined with leather-bound volumes of literary classics and historical tomes. She was resting on a plush chaise lounge, an embroidered throw draped over her legs, reading quietly to distract her anxious mind. The windows were open, letting in the crisp breeze and the fragrance of freshly pruned rose bushes. She heard the sound of tires crunching the gravel driveway. Usually she would ignore such mundane arrivals. Staff and deliveries were normal. But something made her look up. Through the window she glimpsed a sleek black sedan rolling up to the mansion's entrance. Out stepped Veronica Brooks, dressed in a striking burgundy dress that clung to her every curve. She carried a small designer handbag, and her face shone with bold confidence. Cassie's heart hammered in her chest. What was she doing here in broad daylight, pulling up to the main entrance as though she owned the place? Cassie summoned Linda, who was nearby rummaging through a stack of documents. Together they hurried to the foyer, just as Mr. Jameson opened the grand double doors. Veronica strolled inside, with an imperious tilt to her chin, taking in the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, and the gilded banister of the sweeping staircase. She looked like a shopper evaluating a potential purchase, eyeing every corner as though deciding if it met her standards. Mr. Jameson, professional as ever, approached her politely. "Miss, do you have an appointment? Shall I announce you?" Veronica flashed a smile. "I'm expected," she said coolly, before Mr. Jameson could respond. Alex appeared at the top of the staircase. "Veronica," he muttered, eyes flashing with alarm. He gave a quick glance at Cassie and Linda, who were standing to the side, the tension crackling in the air. Cassie's expression was as controlled as possible, but inside she was roiling with fury at this blatant invasion. "I wanted to see where you live," Veronica said, her voice dripping with a casual arrogance that sent chills through Cassie. "We've been sneaking around for so long. I wanted a glimpse of the real Gilmore lifestyle. Besides, I hear your wife is home. Maybe she'd like to finally meet me." Alex rushed down the stairs, a mixture of anxiety and anger in his features. "We agreed we wouldn't do this here," he hissed under his breath, gripping Veronica's arm. But she shrugged him off, stepping forward. Cassie realized then that Veronica Brooks wasn't just a mistress. She was a predator on the hunt, determined to mark her territory in front of everyone. Cassie inhaled slowly, trying to maintain her composure. Her unborn baby's well-being was her priority. "Veronica Brooks," I assume she said in a measured tone. Veronica took her in from head to toe, her gaze lingering on Cassie's baby bump. "Yes. And you must be the pregnant Mrs. Gilmore." She said pregnant like it was a mere inconvenience. She then turned and surveyed the foyer. Charming place. A bit old-fashioned, don't you think Linda couldn't contain herself? You have no shame, she snapped, stepping forward. But Cassie placed a gentle hand on Linda's arm, stopping her from escalating the confrontation. Cassie looked from Veronica to Alex, whose face was pale, as though he wanted to vanish into the polished floor. This was the reckoning she had dreaded, yet also the one she had prepared for in her heart. 1,000 questions and accusations swirled in her mind, but she settled on the only words that seemed fitting. "Why are you here, Veronica?" Veronica lifted a shoulder. "I'm tired of waiting in the shadows. I think Alex and I deserve something more official. I should be able to come and go as I please." She let her slender hand drift to Alex's chest, a brazen gesture in front of the wife. "He promised me a future here." Cassie's heart thudded. So it was true. Veronica had come to stake her claim on the Gilmore mansion, on the Gilmore name, the Gilmore power, and the Gilmore fortune. Alex did nothing to rebuke her. Instead, he looked to Cassie with something akin to a silent plea. Perhaps he wanted Cassie to remain calm, to avoid a scandal, to maintain the facade. But Cassie was done with facades. "I think you're delusional," Cassie said, each syllable precise. "You are not walking into my home like you belong here. This conversation is over." Veronica smirked, her eyes flashing triumph. "We'll see about that. I have a few lawyers on my side too, you know." Then she lowered her voice conspiratorially, still loud enough for Linda and Alex to hear. "I happen to have a small surprise of my own." Cassie felt her stomach lurch. She could only guess what that meant. A rumor, perhaps, that Veronica was pregnant as well. Or had Veronica discovered some financial vulnerability of the Gilmore family? Cassie's mind raced. She glanced at Alex, but he avoided her gaze. His features were etched with guilt. Before Cassie could respond, Veronica turned on her heel, heading toward the living room uninvited. Mr. Jameson looked distraught, unsure whether to physically stop the intruder. Linda was white with rage. Cassie, summoning her last shred of calm, addressed Alex. "I think you should escort your guest out. Now." Alex, cornered and flushed with panic, nodded mutely. He caught up to Veronica, gently placing a hand on her arm to steer her away. She allowed herself to be led, but before reaching the door, she turned back, her voice echoing in the foyer. "I'll see you soon, Mrs. Gilmore." In the aftermath, Cassie's legs trembled. Linda helped her onto the chaise lounge. Tears pricked at Cassie's eyes, but she fought them back. She would not let Veronica see her cry. Never. When Alex returned, he tried to apologize. He stuttered some excuse about Veronica being unstable, how he never intended for her to show up here, how it was all a mistake. Cassie listened in silence, her expression stoic. Yet inside she seethed with rage and heartbreak. She kept remembering Veronica's parting words. "I'll see you soon." That night, as the mansion's corridors fell silent, Cassie couldn't sleep. She stood by the window of her bedroom, looking down at the moonlit gardens. She could see the gazebo, the manicured hedges, and the reflection of the moon in the koi pond. On a normal night, it would have been a serene sight. But tonight, all she felt was an undercurrent of fear, betrayal, and anger. She placed a protective hand over her abdomen. The baby kicked in response as if sensing her turmoil. Tears finally came hot and relentless, but resolved. She knew she had to act. The time had come to consult her lawyers and to wield the financial power she still had. Cassie had discovered a legal instrument that, if invoked, could freeze certain assets in the event of marital misconduct, particularly if there were concerns about large sums of money being spent without spousal consent. It was time to speak to the Gilmore family attorney, an old friend of Alexander Gilmore Fuss, who believed in upholding the family legacy. Cassie thought he might be sympathetic. After all, the unborn child was the future Gilmore heir. Ensuring the child's interests would be paramount. Unknown to Cassie, Veronica was making her own bold moves that very same night. She dialed Alex's cell phone repeatedly, demanding a conversation, pressing him to fulfill the promises he'd made in the hush of their private rendezvous. She was done waiting. If Alex wouldn't publicly acknowledge her and end his marriage, Veronica vowed to take what she wanted by force, either by blackmail or an open scandal. She had photos, text messages, even recordings of their intimate moments. She teased the possibility of leaking them if Alex tried to discard her. Meanwhile, Linda remained a vigilant ally for Cassie. She spent the evening gathering documents related to Alex's personal bank accounts and investments. She pored over financial statements, hunting for anything suspicious that could help Cassie's case. What she found was disturbing: a series of extravagant charges at high-end boutiques, luxury hotels, and even an apartment lease in Veronica Brooks's name. The money for that lease had been siphoned from a joint marital account. It was more than enough evidence to justify the freeze Cassie planned to initiate. The stage was set. The mistress had arrived brazenly, challenging the pregnant wife. But Cassie held a trump card that neither Alex nor Veronica fully grasped. In the labyrinth of high-stakes finance legal documents and old money alliances, Cassie Gilmore had an advantage that would flip the script: the power to freeze every single account that funded Alex's double life. It didn't take long for word to spread among the Gilmore staff that the mistress had made a brazen daytime appearance. Maids whispered in the halls, the chef clucked disapprovingly in the kitchen, and even the gardener, who rarely got involved in household gossip, shook his head at the scandal. Though the estate was grand, gossip travelled quickly under its lofty roofs, fueled by the shock that someone would dare walk in with such blatant disrespect toward the lady of the house. Cassie Gilmore's immediate priority was to protect her unborn child, both emotionally and financially. She understood that the surest way to preserve her child's future was to secure the family assets. Over the next few days, she placed discreet phone calls to the Gilmore family attorney, William Stevenson, who had been the legal backbone of the dynasty for decades. He was a reserved, silver-haired man in his 70s, with keen eyes that missed nothing. He had once remarked to Cassie, "Never underestimate the hidden clauses in a well-drafted prenup or trust agreement." She had taken that advice to heart. Cassie explained the situation in a calm, steady voice. She didn't ask for pity. She asked for action. Stevenson had known something was amiss, as Alex had recently inquired about transferring significant sums out of the family trust. "I can't comment on the personal aspects of your marriage, Mrs. Gilmore," Stevenson said. "But from a legal perspective, if there's risk of marital assets being squandered without your consent, you have grounds for an injunction and a freeze." He paused, then added, "Your father-in-law created these trusts to ensure the continuity of the Gilmore legacy. Your unborn child is part of that legacy. I will do whatever is in my power to protect that." Cassie exhaled in relief, tears stinging the corners of her eyes. She realized she wasn't alone in this fight. An entire system built by the Gilmore ancestors was designed to shield the rightful heirs from unscrupulous outsiders. Veronica Brooks might not be easily cowed, but Cassie had an arsenal of legal recourse at her disposal. She quietly thanked Stevenson and began finalizing the paperwork. Meanwhile, Linda dove deeper into Alex's financial movements. She discovered suspicious wire transfers to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, listed under a shell corporation that Veronica Brooks nominally owned. The pattern was unmistakable. Alex intended to set Veronica up for a luxurious life, potentially using the Gilmore fortune without Cassie's knowledge. Fueled by righteous fury, Linda organized all the digital evidence into a confidential folder to present to Stevenson. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. Veronica wasn't just an affair. She was a threat with designs on massive wealth. A day after Veronica's uninvited visit, Cassie sent an invitation to Alex, requesting he meet her in the mansion's parlor. She wanted to speak privately, hoping to gauge where his loyalties truly lay. When he arrived, she noticed the weariness in his eyes, the tension in the lines of his mouth. "You wanted to see me?" he asked, feigning nonchalance as he settled into a velvet armchair. Cassie calmly poured tea, the delicate porcelain cups clinking softly in the otherwise silent room. "Yes, Alex. I think we should talk about what happened, and about where this marriage is going." He glanced at the teacup, then at Cassie's swollen belly gilt flickering across his features. "I'm sorry about Veronica," he began, voice shaking slightly. "She shouldn't have come here like that. I never wanted you to find out this way." "Why did you want me to find out at all?" Cassie asked quietly, stirring her tea. "It's not like you were making much of an effort to hide your affair. She's wearing designer clothes I recognize from your credit card statements. She's parading in public on your arm. Do you expect me to continue living with this humiliation while I'm carrying your child?" Alex rubbed his eyes. It just got out of hand. Veronica and well, it started as, I don't know, a mistake. But I got in too deep. She's persistent. Cassie's lips thinned. That's an understatement. He looked up, desperation in his gaze. "I still care about you, Cassie. About the baby. I never intended to." She raised a hand, stopping him. "Don't insult me. You intended to betray me the moment you started sneaking behind my back. And your so-called care hasn't stopped you from siphoning money for her." Shock flitted over his face. "You've been looking into my accounts." Cassie exhaled, feeling no remorse. "I learned from the best. I watched how you and your family protect your finances, and I studied them for precisely this scenario. I'm pregnant, I'm your wife, and if you're funneling assets to someone else, I have every right to intervene." He pressed his lips together. "What are you going to do, freeze my accounts? That'll just hurt both of us." A twinge of sadness hit Cassie. She realized that Alex, the man she once loved, wholeheartedly, now saw her as an adversary. But her baby's future took precedence. "If you intend to continue this farce with Veronica, then yes, I will. I won't stand by while you fund your mistress's lifestyle." He scoffed. "You're not the only one who has power here, Cassie." That threat hung in the air. Cassie studied his face, searching for the man she'd married, the man who'd once placed a diamond ring on her finger and promised to love her forever. All she saw was fear, arrogance, and guilt. She set down her cup with a decisive clink. "I suggest you think carefully about where your true responsibilities lie, Alex. Because if you force my hand, I won't hesitate." Their conversation ended with no resolution, just a silent understanding that the battle lines were drawn. Cassie would protect her child. Alex was torn but seemed more driven by Veronica's manipulations than he cared to admit. He left the parlor, and Cassie felt a wave of exhaustion. Yet a spark of determination burned inside her. She had the law on her side, and she had moral righteousness too. The next few days were a whirlwind of strategic planning. William Stevenson expedited the paperwork, drafting an injunction that would freeze specific joint and trust accounts if Cassie could provide evidence of Alex's financial misconduct. Linda diligently compiled that evidence: receipts, bank statements, screenshots, hotel reservations. She also secured sworn affidavits from staff members who had witnessed Veronica's intrusion or noticed suspicious behaviors. Every phone call, every form signed, brought Cassie closer to the moment she would pull the trigger on the freeze. Veronica, meanwhile, didn't stand idle. She continued to contact Alex incessantly, demanding updates on his promise to get rid of Cassie. She even went so far as to show up at his office building downtown, causing a minor scandal among the employees. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueling speculation that Veronica might be pregnant or was seeking hush money. Alex grew frazzled, snapping at colleagues and missing important meetings. The mistress's demands escalated. She wanted a key to the mansion, an engagement ring, official introduction to the Gilmore family's inner circle. She was convinced that if she just applied enough pressure, she would secure her place as Alex's new partner. Unbeknownst to both Alex and Veronica, Cassie was prepared to reveal her hand at any moment. Linda quietly arranged for Cassie to meet with a judge, privately presenting the evidence of Alex's unapproved transfers and the legitimate fear that large sums could be moved offshore, depriving Cassie and her unborn child of their rightful financial security. It was a tricky legal matter. Judges were sometimes reluctant to intervene in marital disputes without strong evidence. But Cassie's case was compelling. She carried the next Gilmore heir, and the sums in question were significant enough to warrant immediate action. Late on a Thursday afternoon, Cassie received the call she had been waiting for. Judge Richardson had approved the injunction. Effective immediately, Alex's ability to access the primary Gilmore trust accounts would be suspended pending further investigation. Joint marital accounts would also be frozen to prevent unauthorized transfers. Only a modest monthly living allowance would remain available to Alex, and every penny of it would be monitored by the court. Cassie sank into her favorite armchair when she heard the news, a flurry of relief and terror swirling inside her. This was it. The hardest part was done. The accounts were frozen. She was safe for now. But what next? Through the window, dusk fell over the estate. A new era was dawning within these old, hallowed walls. One where Cassie Gilmore refused to be the victim, refused to be overshadowed by a brazen mistress. She whispered softly to her unborn child, promising protection. She knew a confrontation was inevitable. Alex and Veronica would discover the freeze soon enough, and their wrath would be unlike anything she'd witnessed. Yet Cassie held a quiet confidence that no matter what happened next, she had done the right thing for herself and for the future of the Gilmore legacy. The next morning arrived like the calm before a thunderstorm. Cassie woke early, her nerves on edge, anticipating the fallout. Linda, always ahead of the game, had arranged for extra security at the mansion. 2 discreet guards stationed at the gate, prepared to deny entry to any uninvited visitors, specifically Veronica Brooks. The staff was on high alert, understanding that something seismic was about to happen. Mr. Jameson even insisted on personally attending to the front door, unwilling to let the mistress set foot inside again without a fight. Sure enough, by mid-morning, Alex discovered the freeze on his accounts. He tried to withdraw funds to placate Veronica's demands, only to find his card declined. Panic set in as he contacted his personal banker, who informed him that a court order had locked down the Gilmore Trust and the couple's joint accounts pending further investigation into marital misconduct. Furious Alex barged into the mansion, shouting Cassie's name. She met him in the foyer, her hands clasped protectively over her abdomen, her face radiating quiet determination. "Good morning, Alex. I assume you received the news?" He stared at her with disbelief and anger. "You actually did it! How dare you? Do you realize the mess you've created?" "It had to be done," Cassie replied calmly. "You were using our money to fund your affair. I won't allow that." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the length of the foyer like a trapped animal. "You think this solves anything?" Veronica is livid. "She's threatening to ruin both of us." Cassie's stomach knotted, but she held firm. "Let her try. We have the legal system on our side. She can't access a dime from the Gilmore accounts." A metallic clang at the main entrance made them both turn. Veronica Brooks strode in, ignoring Mr. Jameson's attempts to stop her. She wore dark sunglasses, whipped them off, and pointed an accusing finger at Cassie. "You froze the accounts. Are you insane?" Mr. Jameson attempted to intervene. "Miss Brooks." "I must insist." "It's all right, Mr. Jameson," Cassie said softly. "Let's have this conversation here and now." Alex moved toward Veronica, trying to calm her, but she pushed his hands away. "I can't access my money," she spat, glaring at Cassie. "I had bills to pay a car lease. All of it was funded by Alex. You cut me off just like that." "It's not your money," Cassie said, feeling a surprising wave of satisfaction at the simple truth. "It belongs to the Gilmore family." Veronica's eyes flashed with hatred. "Alex promised me a life. Promised me I'd be taken care of. You think I'm just going to walk away with nothing?" Linda, who had stepped in quietly, couldn't suppress a scornful laugh. "That's exactly what you're going to do, unless you want to face the legal repercussions for blackmail, embezzlement, and probably a host of other charges we can line up against you." "Shut up!" Veronica screeched, lunging forward, only to be caught by Alex, who frantically tried to restrain her. "I gave up everything for you, Alex," she yelled. "I left my job, my apartment," which was paid for by Alex using marital funds. Linda interjected. "That is called financial abuse of the joint accounts." Cassie felt a surge of sympathy for the baby, stirring in her womb, absorbing every bit of tension. She spoke firmly, ignoring the trembling in her voice. "Veronica, I suggest you leave. Any conversation you have from this point forward should be with our lawyers." Veronica's gaze whipped to Alex. "Are you really going to stand there and let her banish me? You said you loved me." Alex looked torn, helpless. He stared at Cassie, then at Veronica, then back again. "I told you not to come here," he muttered. "You've made everything worse." Disgust and heartbreak mingled in Cassie's expression. "Alex, I see you still can't decide who you want to stand by. But the choice is already made for you. You want to continue with Veronica. Then you lose access to the family money. You want to be part of our child's life. Then you cut Veronica out." The ultimatum hung in the air like a guillotine. Linda watched, arms crossed, ready to back up Cassie if things got out of control. Mr. Jameson hovered near the door, quietly summoning the newly hired security to the foyer. Veronica snapped. "I'm not going anywhere until I get my share." "You think you can humiliate me, toss me aside and leave me penniless? You're messing with the wrong woman." Cassie Gilmore. She glared at Cassie's baby bump, a twisted sneer on her lips. "Don't think I won't do what I have to do." Security guards materialized, stepping forward to flank Veronica. She spun on them with a venomous look, but they were calm and trained to remain professional. "Ms. Brooks, one guard said you need to leave now." She pivoted back to Alex, eyes wild. Help me. Tell them I'm allowed here." Alex exhaled raggedly, looking at Cassie with desperation. But Cassie just shook her head. Her eyes were resolute. She saw the truth in Alex's expression. He wasn't brave enough to defy Veronica, nor was he courageous enough to do right by his wife. He was a spineless man, torn between guilt and lust, stuck in a no-man's land of his own making. When he didn't speak, Veronica let out a trembling exhale. The security guards took her gently by the arms. She allowed herself to be led away, but not without spitting one final threat at Cassie. "I'm not done. You'll see. I'll ruin all of you." The echo of her heels on the marble floor faded, and then she was gone. Cassie felt a rush of relief and heartbreak all at once. She clutched at her belly, breathing deeply conscious that stress could harm the baby. Linda was instantly by her side, steadying her. Alex remained standing in the foyer, looking as though he'd been struck by lightning. Without glancing at him, Cassie whispered, "You need to leave too, Alex. I can't have you living here if you're still entangled with her." He flinched. "Cassie, where would I go?" She swallowed tears, threatening to rise. "That's not my concern. I'll speak to Stevenson. He'll arrange a temporary allowance for you, enough to cover a hotel room or rental. But until you figure out where your loyalty lies, I don't want you under this roof." His eyes glistened with unshed tears. Perhaps he was finally realizing the gravity of his actions. "I never wanted this, I swear." Cassie nodded, her voice trembling with sadness. "Yet here we are. Pack what you need and go." "I have to think about our child's well-being." For a moment, it looked like Alex might argue. Then his shoulders sagged, and he turned to climb the stairs. Cassie and Linda heard him reach the second-floor landing, the sound of closet doors opening and suitcases being pulled out. Neither woman spoke. They both knew this was the only choice left. In less than an hour, Alex reappeared with 2 suitcases. He glanced at Cassie, who stood by the parlor entrance, still cradling her belly. Their eyes met, and there was a flicker of the love they'd once shared. But it was drowned out by layers of betrayal pain and the chasm that had grown between them. As Alex walked out the front door, Mr. Jameson closed it gently behind him. Silence fell over the mansion's grand foyer. Cassie inhaled, trying to steady her swirling emotions. She pressed a palm over her baby bump. "I did what I had to," she whispered. Linda placed a comforting hand on Cassie's shoulder. In a single day, Cassie had banished both her husband and his mistress from the mansion. The accounts were frozen. The Gilmore dynasty was protected. But the emotional toll was immense, and Cassie knew the war was not over. Veronica's threat hung in the air, and Alex's next move remained unknown. Yet for the first time since discovering the affair, Cassie felt a sense of empowerment. She was no longer a victim waiting in the shadows. She was a mother-to-be who had just defended her child's legacy with every ounce of strength she possessed. In the days that followed the dramatic eviction, Cassie Gilmore faced a whirlpool of emotions, legal proceedings and public scrutiny. Society circles buzzed with gossip about Alex's abrupt departure from the mansion, about the rumored mistress, and about Cassie's pregnancy. Headlines screamed, "Gilmore scandal. Mistress invades mansion. Wife fights back." Paparazzi camped outside the estate gates, hoping to snap a shot of Cassie or glean details from departing staff. Inside the mansion, Cassie operated like a fortress commander. Linda helped enforce the new security measures, ensuring the staff's loyalty. They updated passcodes for the front gate, installed additional cameras, and changed alarm codes for the house. Cassie wanted no further surprises from Veronica or from Alex. On the legal front, William Stevenson proceeded with the formal steps to protect the Gilmore inheritance. While Cassie remained the rightful spouse, an investigation into Alex's misconduct would determine how the marital assets would be divided if a divorce became inevitable. For Cassie, pregnancy hormones and stress formed a precarious mix. Yet she found solace in the occasional flutters of the baby's kicks. She kept her prenatal appointments and maintained a strict routine of meditation and healthy meals, determined to shield her child from the toxicity swirling around them. Late at night, she read aloud from classic children's books while rocking on a glider in the half-finished nursery. Each page turned was a promise of a better future despite the chaos. Amid the tension, an unexpected messenger arrived. One afternoon, Linda found a small envelope slipped under the mansion gate. The handwriting was hurried. It bore no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. Cassie, I have vital information. Meet me at the Arbor Cafe tomorrow at noon. V. Linda immediately suspected a trap. Veronica Brooks was not one to wave a white flag. She smelled blackmail or another manipulative scheme. Cassie considered ignoring it, but her curiosity was piqued. What could Veronica possibly want now? If it was a threat, better to face it and evaluate her leverage. With reluctance, Cassie agreed to go, but not without precautions. She had 2 discreet bodyguards in plain clothes wait at a nearby table, while Linda watched from a corner seat. The Arbor Cafe was a cozy spot in the city's historic district, known for its vine-covered walls and wrought-iron tables under twinkling lights. When Cassie arrived, Veronica was already seated, sunglasses perched on her head, a latte half-finished on the table. She looked more subdued than usual, her eyes ringed with exhaustion. Cassie hesitated, feeling a flicker of sympathy for the woman who had invaded her life. Then she remembered the heartbreak, the betrayal, and the vicious threats. Veronica gestured to the empty seat. Please, sit. Cassie did so, carefully placing her purse on her lap. She stayed silent, waiting for Veronica to speak first. After a tense moment, Veronica sighed, her voice unsteady. I'm not here to fight, Cassie. I'm here to tell you something. Important. Cassie arched an eyebrow. Go on. Veronica glanced around, her gaze landing on Linda in the corner. Linda stared back, unflinching. Veronica pursed her lips. I've spent the last few days trying to salvage my life. I never expected you to freeze all the accounts. That was the point, Cassie replied coldly. Veronica gave a short, humorless laugh. Yeah, well, mission accomplished. I'm broke now. I had to sell half my clothes just to afford my hotel bill. She tapped the table absently. But this meeting isn't about money. It's about Alex. Cassie's pulse jumped. What about him? Veronica removed her sunglasses, revealing red-rimmed eyes. He lied to you. But he also lied to me. He never told me the full story about the Gilmore finances, about the baby, about everything. He made promises he couldn't keep. And now I'm the one facing ruin, while he's found himself another option. A chill crept through Cassie. Another option. Veronica nodded grimly. He's turned to an old flame, apparently. He's trying to find a place to stay with someone named Marisa in the Hamptons. She's some rich divorcee who still pines for him, or so he says. Cassie clenched her jaw. It hurt to realize Alex had already moved on from both of them, but she forced herself to remain composed. Why are you telling me this? Veronica's voice trembled with anger. Because I want you to know he's not just a cheater, he's an opportunist. You freeze his accounts and he runs to the next wealthy woman who might fund his lifestyle. I was a pawn, just as you were. Cassie shifted uncomfortably in her chair. She wrestled with conflicting emotions. Fury at Alex for continuing his pattern of betrayal. Reluctant empathy for Veronica's sense of betrayal and confusion about whether any of this made a difference. So what do you hope to achieve by telling me? Veronica sighed. Closure, maybe? A chance to rid myself of this anger. I have no illusions that you'll forgive me. But I've learned something else too. Something about the Gilmore finances that might help you in the long run. Cassie felt her heart skip. I'm listening. Veronica leaned forward, lowering her voice. Alex mentioned once that if things got too hot, he could cash out an offshore account. In my name, transfer the money, quickly vanish, and leave you none the wiser. He even boasted about forging your signature if needed to finalize transactions. I brushed it off at the time, but now I realize he might actually do it. A surge of cold washed over Cassie. That's serious. You have proof Veronica slid a small USB drive across the table, recordings of phone conversations, text messages. He got sloppy. I was planning to use these to blackmail him, but after everything, I'd rather see him pay for his lies. She hesitated, looking away. Besides, I never wanted to be the villain who destroyed you. I just wanted a better life. I made a mistake. I've paid dearly for it. Cassie stared at the USB drive, 1,000 thoughts whirling. Alex forging her signature, emptying accounts, running away. Her baby would be left with nothing, and the Gilmore empire could collapse in scandal. This evidence might be the final nail in Alex's coffin in court. It also might be the leverage Cassie needed to ensure her child's future was secure. She exhaled shakily. Thank you, she said, softening just a fraction. But don't mistake this for forgiveness. You hurt me deeply. Veronica nodded, tears brimming. I know. I've come to realize that karma hits hard. Just take this information and protect yourself and your child. That's all I have left to say. Cassie clasped the USB drive, her mind still reeling. You should find a way to restart your life, Veronica, away from all this. If you truly regret what you did, maybe you'll find redemption somewhere. Veronica's lips curved in a sad smile. I don't expect redemption, but I appreciate the sentiment. She rose from her chair, fumbling for her sunglasses, as though needing them to hide the tears she refused to let fall. Goodbye, Cassie. I hope your child never has to know any of this. Then she was gone, leaving Cassie with a swirl of questions and a trove of incriminating evidence that could reshape everything. Linda approached, placing a steady hand on Cassie's shoulder. Are you okay? Cassie shook her head, tears in her eyes. I think so. But this changes everything. Linda gently guided Cassie to her feet. Let's go home. We'll sort it out. That night, Cassie and Linda reviewed the files on the USB drive in the privacy of Cassie's study. They heard Alex's voice recorded phone calls in which he casually discussed forging Cassie's signature, opening new accounts in Veronica's name, and funneling money away from the Gilmore empire. It was sickening yet undeniably powerful evidence. Cassie felt simultaneously devastated and vindicated. Her husband was beyond redemption. With these recordings, Cassie could ensure Alex never accessed the trust again. She could push for a strong settlement if they proceeded to divorce, guaranteeing her baby's financial future. And if Alex tried to defy the court orders, she could press criminal charges. The weight of that power both frightened and relieved her. Late into the night, Cassie and Linda compiled all the evidence to deliver to William Stevenson. Cassie felt an odd sense of clarity. She had started this war to shield herself and her child from Veronica's greed, but now she realized the real threat had always been Alex. Perhaps he had once loved her, but now he was nothing more than a self-serving con man. She squared her shoulders and set her jaw. This ends now. Within days of receiving the incriminating USB, Cassie and William Stevenson acted swiftly. The evidence of Alex's schemes, recorded calls, forged signature plans, and money laundering was presented to the court and the Gilmore family board. The reaction was immediate. Alex was stripped of all authority over the family trust and faced potential criminal charges. Once the Gilmore golden boy, Alex, now found himself disgraced, exiled by both family and public opinion. The media had a field day. Headlines painted him as a traitor to his legacy while society turned its back on him. His father, furious and embarrassed, threatened to disown him completely. Meanwhile, Cassie proceeded with divorce filings, claiming full custody of their unborn child and requesting spousal and child support. The Gilmore board backed her, fully pledging to create a new trust to secure the baby's future independent of Alex. Despite the ongoing legal battles, Cassie focused on her pregnancy. The baby's health stabilized, and she followed every doctor's order to protect her mental and physical well-being. Her days were filled with gentle routines, meditation, checkups, nursery planning, and nights were spent rocking in a chair reading to her unborn daughter. Linda remained by her side, a constant support in this final stretch. As Alex's world crumbled, he desperately tried to reach Cassie, begging, accusing, then pleading again. She ignored every call. Any communication went through lawyers. Rumors spread that he sought refuge with a wealthy ex in the Hamptons, but that door closed quickly once his scandals reached her. Eventually, even Veronica turned her back on him, leaving Alex drifting between hotels, broke, bitter and isolated. Veronica, meanwhile, disappeared quietly. After her final meeting with Cassie, she seemed to accept defeat. Word spread that she had taken a modest job in another state, far from the world of designer clothes and scandal. While she had caused pain, her final act, handing over the USB, played a key role in preserving the Gilmore child's future. It wasn't redemption, but it was something. Then one crisp autumn morning, Cassie went into labor. Linda rushed her to a private hospital, where Cassie delivered a healthy baby girl. Tears streamed down her face as she held her daughter for the first time, overwhelmed by love, relief, and triumph. Everything she had endured, the betrayal, humiliation, and legal warfare, had led to this moment. Back at the mansion, the atmosphere transformed. What was once a battlefield of secrets now became a sanctuary. The staff, once filled with whispers and tension, now doted on the newborn. Cassie walked through the halls, holding her daughter, feeling strength she never knew she had. Her child's eyes mirrored a new future, one filled with truth, peace, and resilience. The Gilmore board members, initially skeptical of Cassie, now respected her deeply. She had not only protected the family's wealth, but had also upheld its integrity far better than Alex ever had. She was no longer seen as just the wife she was, the new matriarch commanding both admiration and authority. Alex, meanwhile, faded from the spotlight. His attempts to delay court proceedings failed. The evidence was too strong. He faced mounting debts, lawsuits, and a tarnished reputation. Stevenson pushed the case forward, ensuring Alex would have limited contact and no financial access unless approved by the court. Cassie's life settled into a new rhythm. She balanced motherhood with quiet strength, no longer consumed by past wounds. When memories of betrayal surfaced, she looked into her daughter's eyes and found clarity. She had done everything for this child. She had protected what mattered most. One rainy afternoon, as her daughter napped peacefully in the nursery, Cassie reflected on the journey. The headline that once sounded like a tabloid fantasy, Mistress took her spot at the mansion until the pregnant wife froze. All the accounts was her truth, and in that truth she had found justice, peace, and power. Karma had taken its course, not through revenge, but through quiet determination, legal action, and maternal devotion. The mansion now stood as a symbol of resilience, not scandal. And in that home, a new legacy had begun, one that Cassie would shape with wisdom, love, and unwavering strength. And so ends the tumultuous saga of betrayal, resilience, and ultimate justice within the Gilmore mansion. From the moment the brazen mistress strutted into the climactic showdown, when the pregnant wife froze every account this story has shown us, that sometimes real power lies not in money or social status, but in the unyielding strength of a woman protecting her child and her legacy. The echoes of Alex's downfall ring through the ornate hallways, but in the nursery, a new beginning blossoms proof that love, determination, and a dash of legal savvy can conquer even the most cunning schemes. If you've been captivated by this dramatic tale of family secrets, high-stakes betrayal, and hard-earned redemption, be sure to like this video, share it with others who love a juicy real-life twist, and subscribe to this channel. Your support fuels more riveting stories, each exploring the depths of human emotion and the triumph of hope over adversity. Thank you for watching.